Good morning. This is Mr. Scherbel. Welcome to my video. I'm sure it's going to be very famous one day. Let's get started. If you would please open up in your textbooks to page 745. We're going to start there. And we're going to be looking at example number 2. And I'm going to pretend this white piece of paper is just like what I'd be writing down on the whiteboard. So feel free to use or to write down the examples that I'm writing down. And then this is going to be on YouTube, so you're welcome to review that at your leisure. I'm sure we'll get lots of likes and views. Okay, so we're looking at number 2, and if you're looking on page 745, number 2, you've got a yellow circle that's circling around this neighborhood, and it gives you the diameter of 0.4 kilometers, or 4/10 of a kilometer. So it looks something like that, and it's showing the diameter, and it's telling you that it's 0.4 kilometers. Well, we're trying to find the area of this circle. And in order to do that, we're going to need to use our area formula for a circle. And the area formula, area of a circle, is going to equal pi r squared. So we're going to times the radius times itself times pi. In this question, we don't have the radius. We'd have to figure that out by dividing that diameter in 2. So we take 0.4 kilometers and divide it into our radius is going to equal 0.2 or 2/10 of a kilometer. So we're going to insert this in for our radius in our formula. So our answer is going to be pi, and we put 0.2 raised to the second power. And if they're looking for an exact answer, we're going to leave pi. And I'm fine if you use either pi in your answer, or if you would like to use 3.14 for your to approximate pi. So if we take 0.2 squared, we get 0.04, and if we times that by pi, we're going to get, not that. We're going to get 0.1256. Now your answer says find the area of each circle round to the nearest 10th. So our 10th place is right here, so we're going to round up. So we're going to be approximately 0.13 kilometers squared. Remember, we're dealing with area, so we got to use our squared symbol. So that's going to be the answer for number 2. Now, I realize that your homework assignment is going to be page 746, 8 through 25. I'm going to stay away from the homework assignment to make sure that that you have enough to do during the class period. So you're welcome to always get help from each other. And I'm sure Mrs. Waters can help you as well. Let's move on to question number 3 on that same page. And those directions says find the indicated measure round to the nearest 10th. And this time it says find the diameter of a circle with an area of 74 square millimeters. Well, so this time, for question number 3, we're wanting to know what the diameter is going to be. We don't know what the diameter is of a circle with an area of 74 square millimeters. 74 square millimeters. Okay, so this time we're going to have to kind of work backwards. Here, before that diameter was given to us, we had to divide by 2 and then put it in this equation. Well, now we actually have the answer, and we're going to work backwards back to the diameter. So if I know that the area, this 74 millimeters squared, is going to be equal to pi times the radius squared, Well, I got to work backwards. So what I can do, I can divide both sides by pi. So now I have 74 over pi is equal to r squared. And then in order to get the radius by itself, because I'm trying to get the diameter, remember r squared is not the diameter. The diameter is twice as big as r. So we have to take the square root of that. It might look like a big scary number, but if we put that into our calculators, 74, and I'll show you what I'm doing on here. I'm doing 74 divided by 3.14 or pi, and I get the 23.56, but if that's not what we need, that's not our final answer, we want to take the square root of that. And so our radius is going to be 4.85 is going to be about what our radius is. But in the question it's asking for the diameter. So if our radius equals that, we got to times this by 2. So I'm going to times that by 2, and I get 9.7. And we're rounding to the nearest tenth, so that would work just lovely for our diameter. Okay, so there's question 3. So that's an example of what to do on those type of questions. So working backwards, remember what we did. We divided by pi, and then we ended up taking the square root in order to be left with just the radius. Watch out if they're asking for the radius or the diameter, and you should be good. Okay, now we're going to move on to finding the area of each shaded sector, questions 5 and 6, and we're going to do both of these. So we're going to start with 5. And question number 5, we've got a circle. Oh, wow, that's an ugly circle. But we've got a section that looks like this. It's about the size of a piece of pie that I take. And we're told that the radius is going to be 3 inches. And we've got some other points that are labeled. We have center at D for circle D. We've got a point C and a point E here. Okay, and then with this, we're trying to find the area of this shaded sector. So with this 57 degrees, this is a central angle, and we're also given that that radius, the 3 inches for the radius. So I could find the area of this circle and put in 3 for the radius. So I'd have pi times 3 squared. So that's going to be 9 pi. And we're dealing with inches squared. Is going to be my area if I was talking about the whole circle. But I'm not talking about the whole circle. I'm only talking about a little bit of a portion of this circle. And if I'm talking about how big of a portion, well, I'm taking up 57 degrees out of the total 360 degrees. So if I'm just taking up this portion, 57 out of the 360 degrees, well, I can multiply that by the area, which is the 9 pi. And again, if you want to put that into your calculator, and we'll turn it to the sideways. If I'm putting that in my calculator, and maybe I don't like working with pi, and I want to make that a decimal, 9 times 3.14 gives me 28.26. So I'm going to take 57 divided by 360, that fraction, multiply that by 28.26. And depending on the calculator you use, I mean, you can put in the fractions or whatever. If you're just working off your phone, you can do something like 57 divided by 360 gives you this decimal at 0.15833 repeating, and then times that by 28.26, and we get 4.47, and here we are asked to round to the nearest tenth as well, so I'm going to round up to 4.5, and we're still dealing with inches and area, so this is going to be inches squared. So we still have to figure out the area. We can figure out the area of the whole thing, and then figure out the portion of the piece that we care about. Kind of like what we were doing with arc lengths, if you remember back to that section. I'm sure you do. But you do kind of a similar thing where you're just worried about the portion of the circle that you care about. Okay, so let's go to number 6. And number 6, we've got a circle. A little better. Always practicing drawing circles. And number 6, we've got one that looks almost like a quarter of the slice, but it's not quite. It's 92 degrees instead of 90 degrees. But it's good to keep that in mind. That's going to be about a quarter of it. And we've got points K and M over here. And we're doing the same thing. We're finding the area of the shaded region right here. I didn't shade the last circle, but that's okay. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to figure out what's the area of the entire circle, and that would be pi 7 squared, or that's going to be 49 pi. You can think of that, and that's going to be centimeters squared. So that's the area of the entire circle, but I only care about this portion, this 92 out of 360. Let me see if I can refocus here a little bit. Okay, so I'm only caring about the 92 out of 360, so I'm going to take the 49 pi, and I'm going to multiply that by 92 out of 360. And get my calculator out, and if I do, let's do 49 times 3.14, we get 153.86, and then I'd like to multiply that by 92 divided by 360. And I get, oh, I entered that in wrong. I'm sorry. 92 divided by 360 gives me this decimal, and I'm going to multiply that by 49 times 3.14. I should get about 39.3. And we're dealing with centimeters, so this is going to be centimeters squared for this section. Okay, so we're just multiplying these together. On your calculator, you might need to like make this fraction into a decimal if you can't do that on your calculator. I know some of my yellow calculators can do that in class, and just be able to type it in correctly. Okay, and I think that's going to be enough. You're doing questions 8 through 25, and between those 3 examples, or 4 examples, you should be good. Remember our area of a circle, and then with the sections of the pi, you're still going to figure out the area of the whole circle, but you're going to multiply that by the portion that it is.